Has it ever crossed one's mind that a presidential press conference, usually filled with discussions of the economy, national security, or foreign policy, could suddenly transform into a global stage that shakes the entertainment world and, more astonishingly, draws millions of eyes from across the globe to focus simultaneously on a single name that is not even spoken aloud? The question sounds excessive, almost sensational, yet that is precisely where its strangeness lies. On January 19th, from behind the official podium of Mexico's National Palace, President Claudia Sheinbaum delivered a sentence that quietly triggered a wave of cross-continental cultural resonance. She spoke about BTS. But strangely, the global conversation that followed did not stop at BTS as a group. It narrowed. It converged. It locked its attention onto one figure, Jungkook. There was no grand declaration. No flags were raised. No music was played. Yet the president's statement, calling BTS's concert in Mexico a historic event, worked like a spark in a room filled with gas. In a moment that appeared purely administrative and formal, politics, pop culture, and the collective emotions of a younger generation collided. What was really happening? Why was a concert, even before a single note had been played, already deemed worthy of being called historic by a head of state? And why, behind the great name of BTS, did the global public read a meaning that was quieter yet deeply unsettling? That Jungkook's presence had become the gravitational center of this phenomenon? President Sheinbaum, during the press conference, spoke with what sounded like genuine enthusiasm. She described BTS as a Korean group deeply loved by young people, and emphasized that their arrival was a historic request from the Mexican people. The word historic was not used as an empty metaphor, but as a political acknowledgement of something states rarely recognize openly: the power of global popular culture to transcend language, ideology, and even bureaucratic structures. Yet this is where the puzzle began to take shape. When the word historic echoed, social media was not flooded with discussions about concert logistics, schedules, or even set lists. Instead, what erupted was a wave of discussion centered on an unspoken question. Was this about BTS? Or about Jungkook? In digital spaces, Jungkook's name appeared again and again, as if it were the key that connected all the unease, excitement, and tension. To some, this seemed unfair. BTS is a group. They come as a collective. But for millions of armies, especially in Latin America, there exists an unwritten emotional understanding. Jungkook is not merely a member, but a symbol of a generation that grew up alongside BTS. A voice that accompanied adolescence into the formation of identity itself. Thus, when a president speaks about BTS, the fandom hears it as a signal that is more specific, more personal, and far deeper. That tension became even more tangible when President Sheinbaum did not stop at praise. She went on to mention the various issues raised by fans regarding the BTS concert. This sentence, administrative in tone, ignited a new phase altogether. What followed was no longer just euphoria over an upcoming concert, but a vivid portrait of how a global fandom can push a state to act. Thousands of complaints filed by Mexican armies regarding ticket sales were not mere statistics. They were evidence of public pressure strong enough to compel the state to intervene. And once again, in the conversation spreading widely, Jungkook's name emerged as the emotional axis of that anger and hope. Why did concert tickets become a matter of state concern? Why could complaints about seating layouts and ticket prices be discussed in a presidential press conference? These questions lead to a deeper understanding of the context surrounding this event. BTS's concert in Mexico was not merely entertainment. It had evolved into a symbol of the intersection between global market forces, the identity of a young generation, and state legitimacy. When the head of the Consumer Protection Agency, Ivan Escalante, was directly called upon by the president to explain these issues, the message was unmistakable. The state recognized that what was at stake here was not just tickets, but public trust. Escalante later confirmed that within a matter of days, as many as 4,746 complaints had been received. At first glance, this number might appear as a bureaucratic statistic, but within the context of popular culture, it was a loud collective voice. It revealed the magnitude of expectations, the intensity of emotions, and the seriousness with which ARMY viewed the arrival of BTS. And once again, Jungkook as the most readily recognizable face of this phenomenon. The fans' demands were far from trivial. They called for clear price announcements, early disclosure of seating layouts, transparency regarding additional fees, and ongoing monitoring systems to protect personal data. These were not merely consumer demands, they were demands for fairness in a cultural experience. Here, the narrative surrounding Jungkook becomes even more complex. He was not physically present at the press conference. His name was not explicitly mentioned by President Sheinbaum, yet his absence felt profoundly present. Every discussion of enthusiasm, every complaint about tickets, every utterance of the word historic seemed to echo back to a single figure who, in recent years, has transcended the conventional boundaries of a K-pop idol. Jungkook has become a representation of BTS in the eyes of many outside observers, a symbol of the allure that drives young people to endure virtual queues, submit thousands of complaints, and even draw the attention of a head of state. This is not about a concert yet to be held, but about how the power of popular culture operates even before the stage lights turn on. It is about how one group, and specifically one figure within it, can create a situation in which the state must step in as a mediator. When the president of Mexico speaks about BTS, the world hears it as an official acknowledgement. But when the public responds, they do so with a far sharper emotional focus. And it is at this point that the story of Jungkook can no longer be separated from the story of the state, transparency, and the meaning of the word historic itself. BTS fans in Mexico, who had waited for years since the group entered a hiatus in 2022, approached the ticket sales process with expectations that were almost sacred. This was not merely a concert. It was a symbol of a comeback, a promise of reunion, and a historic moment they believed would never be repeated in the same way. Yet when the virtual queue opened, that euphoria quickly turned into confusion, then disappointment, and finally anger. Seating charts were not available before the queue. Ticket prices appeared only after users were already trapped in the system. Additional fees felt opaque. Time kept ticking, pressure mounted, and on the screen, hope seemed to be toyed with by an algorithm. Within hours, complaints flooded social media. But these were not ordinary complaints. The narrative that formed was no longer simply about expensive tickets or system errors. It evolved into a moral question. Why, for a concert described as historic, were its fans treated like mere numbers in a system devoid of transparency? This was where Mexican Army moved beyond passive fandom. They organized themselves, archived evidence, shared screenshots, and most significantly, filed official complaints with Mexico's Consumer Protection Agency, Profeco. Thousands of reports poured in not because of a single technical failure, but because of an accumulated sense of injustice. When Ivan Escalante, the head of Profeco, finally confirmed that 4,746 complaints had been received within just a few days, that number became more than a statistic. It was an indicator of a rare form of collective power within the realm of entertainment. Each complaint carried a similar story: unclear pricing, hidden seating layouts, non-transparent booking fees, and concerns over the protection of personal data. Yet beneath all those technical details lay a single unifying emotion: the fear of losing the chance to see BTS, and for many to see Jungkook, at a moment they believed would mark an era. Why did Jungkook once again emerge as the gravitational center of these emotions? The answer is not simple, and that complexity is precisely where its appeal lies. Jungkook, as the youngest member of BTS, has long been positioned by the global public as a bridge between the group's past and its future. He is the face most often recognized by non-fans, the voice most easily remembered, and a symbol of continuity amid change. When BTS entered its hiatus and the members shifted their focus to solo activities and mandatory military service, Jungkook remained the most consistent emotional reference point for many ARMY. Thus, when a comeback concert is discussed, the image of Jungkook on stage becomes the primary trigger for the urgency felt by fans. This public pressure ultimately forced the state to take an unusual stance. Profeco did not merely receive complaints, but actively drafted official recommendations to be sent to the concert promoter OCISA and the ticketing provider Ticketmaster. These recommendations demanded full disclosure of all information requested by fans, from pricing and seating charts to the ratio of tickets at each stage of the sales process. Furthermore, the state called for an ongoing monitoring system to protect consumers' personal data. This was not a symbolic gesture. It was a concrete intervention, demonstrating that the state regarded the experience of attending a BTS concert as an issue important enough to warrant structural oversight. In a global context, this move felt almost absurd. Since when does a K-pop concert become a subject of state supervision? Yet it is precisely this absurdity that reveals a deeper truth about the era we inhabit. Popular culture no longer sits at the margins of politics. It has moved into the center of conversations about consumer rights, transparency, and legitimacy. When President Sheinbaum mentioned BTS in a press conference, she implicitly acknowledged that the voice of the younger generation, articulated through fandom, is a political force that cannot be ignored. And once again, within this discourse, Jungkook functions as a symbol that transcends his role as a musician. He becomes a representation of the values fans are fighting for: honesty, openness, and the feeling of being respected. Many social media posts did not explicitly accuse Jungkook of causing the problem. On the contrary, his name was used as a reason why the struggle felt worth pursuing. "We are not asking for special treatment," wrote one fan. "We just want a fair experience for a moment that means so much to us." In sentences like these, Jungkook appears as meaning, not merely as an individual. This reveals a striking transformation. From a silent virtual queue emerged public pressure strong enough to alter policy. From individual complaints arose a collective voice that compelled the state to act. And from a concert came a reflection on how popular culture can influence structures of power. Yet this story is not finished. In fact, this is precisely where the tension reaches its peak. Because if the state has already intervened, if the ticketing system is now under scrutiny, and if the concert has been recognized as a historic event, then the next question becomes far larger. What does all of this mean for BTS, for Jungkook, and for the future of the relationship between the state and global culture? Jungkook's presence, even without physically stepping onto the Mexican stage, felt like a magnet for public attention. ARMY had been preparing for this moment for a long time, awaiting the announcement of ticket prices, studying seating charts, and analyzing every leaked piece of information about the concert. The thousands of complaints submitted to Profeco were not merely grievances. They were a form of global communication demonstrating how fandoms can formally negotiate cultural experiences. Behind the figure of 4,746 complaints lie personal stories of hope, excitement, frustration, and the sense of loss felt when the opportunity to see Jungkook live nearly slipped away. In many ways, Jungkook is not only a beloved idol, he has become a symbol of fairness and youth engagement in shaping their own experiences. On the other hand, the Mexican government showed an approach rarely seen, acknowledging that cultural phenomena can have real implications for public policy. Ivan Escalante, head of the Consumer Protection Agency, did not merely receive complaints but drafted detailed recommendations regulating ticket sales, pre-sale stages for fan club members and financial service users, general sales, ticket ratios at each stage, transparency of prices and additional fees, all had to be disclosed publicly. This was not just about concert logistics. It was state recognition that music and fandom possess significant social power. Amid all these formal procedures, Jungkook remained the emotional center. Every decision made by the organizers, every statement from the government, was experienced by the public through the lens of his presence. Beyond regulation, this moment marks a new phase in the relationship between popular culture and politics. BTS, having made history in multiple countries through their musical achievements and social influence, now became a catalyst for policy change in Mexico. This concert demonstrates that the influence of K-pop is not limited to music charts or streaming numbers. It can trigger institutional responses. And amid all this attention, Jungkook appears as the figure personifying that influence. A magnate capable of drawing thousands, even millions, to act, voice opinions, and demand transparency. This phenomenon also raises deeper questions. Are we witnessing a new evolution in the role of individuals within global culture? If a single name can influence government decisions, mobilize international communities, and symbolize a social movement, then what is fandom truly? Is music merely entertainment, or has it now become a tool for social and political negotiation? The BTS concert in Mexico, though appearing as an ordinary musical event, has proven that collective power can translate into formal channels, with Jungkook standing at the center of that narrative, embodying a change that is unseen but deeply felt. From a broader perspective, this moment reflects a new relationship between young generations and institutions. Mexican Army, with all their energy and dedication, demonstrated that their voices carry weight. They were not only demanding a fair experience but also asserting their position in the global conversation about entertainment, transparency, and consumer rights. And in every interaction, Jungkook emerges as an icon, a figure representing the aspirations and expectations of millions. He is no longer just a singer. He is a symbol of collective influence capable of transcending national boundaries and bureaucracies. As the countdown to the concert grew shorter, tension and anticipation mounted. International media monitored every movement. The fanbase prepared for the virtual queue now overseen by the government, and organizers had to balance logistics with public demands. All of this demonstrated that this event was not merely a musical performance, but a complex social phenomenon. And within that complexity, Jungkook remained the center of attention. He is not just a stage star. He is the symbol of an era where music, fandom, and public policy intersect in ways previously unimaginable. This closes with a dramatic and challenging reflection. What is happening in Mexico is not just about BTS, not just about a concert, not just about tickets or seating charts. It is about the recognition that popular culture wields real power to influence institutions and mobilize global communities. And amid all of this, one name stands firm as the axis of the phenomenon: Jungkook. Is the world truly ready to recognize the impact of a single individual on a global scale? Or are we merely witnessing the beginning of a larger wave, where music and culture become forces of unforeseen social transformation? Only time and the BTS stage will answer, but one thing is certain. When Jungkook stands at the heart of this story, history is being rewritten, not with a pen, but with the cheers of millions of fans and the attention of the world.